What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we're going to be having a look at another very exciting new battle card coming in Wave 2 of the Transformers TCG, Rise of the Combiners. It is a very nice little upgrade card, which was shared by the lovely Ozgeekmum over on Twitter. Do make sure you go and check her out, because, you know, well, it's nice, quite frankly. It's really nice to be able to give a bit of love to people who are sharing these reveals. It's Inferno Breath, and I think we can find some uses for this. Now, this is an action card, and it's got a blue icon, nice for defensive cards. And what this means is, what it says is, tap one of your untapped characters that has 5 stars or more, do free damage to an enemy. So there are a few cards out there where this won't actually work. So for argument's sake, we looked at the Constructicons the other day with Devastator, and the majority of the Constructicons, let's take Bone Crusher as an example, 4-star characters. So these 4-star characters aren't going to be able to work with this, which is annoying because the lower star value you are here, the better this card becomes. But if we look at something like the Stunticons, all of which are 5-star characters, well, this will work very nicely indeed. I should probably give you an example of a Stunticon, shouldn't I? Be a little bit rude if I didn't. How about Motor Master? He's the leader and the only one of whom I've done their own videos, so, you know, I figured it was a decent, good example, very relevant example. Anyway, 5-star character, this will work nicely. Because essentially, what you're doing here is giving up an attack to get free damage done. The thing is, if you're talking about something like Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend, the biggest, baddest attacker in Wave 1 of the Transformers trading card game, then this is probably not a fair trade-off. It's not really going to work. But if you instead look at someone like Motor Master, well, you've got an attack of 3, but to be honest, you're probably going to be leaving Motor Master in alt mode where you've got an attack of 2, so you're not going to be doing that much damage. So does it really matter? You give up an attack, you do free damage, but it's guaranteed free damage. It's like having PS3. Except you don't have to worry about that. You just get the free damage done. And this can be absolutely crucial. Now, I should say it's not quite that straightforward, because essentially you look to see if you've got untapped characters, and then during your turn you flip a transformer, play an action, play an upgrade attack, until one player's got all tapped characters, and then the other player gets to keep attacking. So as long as you've got more characters than your opponent, this basically takes away an attack when you've got more characters than your opponent and they're all tapped. But if this ends up taking away a turn, it's much worse. So let's say you've got 4 characters each in play, then you're not really giving up an attack here. You're giving up a turn, including an action and an upgrade and a transform. That's very bad. So if you're going to be using Inferno Breath, it needs to be, I am going to have an extra attack because I've got more characters than you. I'm giving up that to play Inferno Breath. It cannot be, I've got the same number of characters remaining as you, or fewer. Therefore, I'm giving up a turn to play Inferno Breath. I don't like that very much at all, because then you're giving up an action and an upgrade and a transform as well as an attack. But really, Inferno Breath here works in a deck where you're playing a large amount of small characters. Really, this would be best in Devastator. Unfortunately, Devastator's not going to work brilliantly. Now, I will say, there is one 5-star character in the Devastator deck, and in that respect, that's good. So Scrapper is the 5-star character of the Constructicons. And Scrapper here, I like very much indeed, because you're playing 6 characters. Unless you're playing against a different Devastator list, you're going to have more characters than your opponent does. which means that you can use this to give up an attack. And I mean, look, the Constructicons are so gosh darned weak. I mean, goodness, we could have a look here at Longhaul, who's got an attack of 2 regardless of mode. And can anyone really tell me they wouldn't mind giving up an attack with Longhaul for this? Okay, I suppose Longhaul's got bold 1, and to be fair, in alt mode when you attack you can scrap a card from your hand and put a height counter on your tower. I'll pop a link to the Devastator deck. I explain all about the tower in that video. So yeah, that's what you're going to learn about that. But you're not always going to have cards in your hand. You can't be discarding 4 or 5 cards from your hand in quick succession. So giving up an attack here in Devastator I would like. Because this is basically like Bolt of Lightning. Bolt of Lightning is an action card that does free damage, but it costs a star and it doesn't have an icon. Well, here you're doing free damage and it doesn't cost a star and it does have an icon. It has a blue icon. And I think this is going to work best when we're looking at these combiner decks. When you're playing lots of characters and you're going to have some extra attacks, and you can afford to give up a couple of those attacks to play cards like this, I am fine with it. The extra damage is really nice. You just continually have to go back to the question of, is it worth it? Because you see, during this video I've been talking about giving up an attack, and make no mistake about it, you are giving up an attack. But it's also your action card for the turn. If you weren't playing this, maybe you'd be playing Supercharge, so you can get bold free. Or maybe, and it is a star card, I know, which generally does not work with combiner decks. Combiners tend to be 25 stars, although Volcanicus you can absolutely do. But then again, Volcanicus, you've generally only got 3 characters out at once, so maybe not the best example. But Leap of Faith is redonkulous, link in the description. Scrap the top card of your deck, you may play it. Scrap another card from the top of your deck, you may play that as well. You're playing 2 cards off the top of your deck, which means that you're playing extra cards, but it also means that you don't have to have those cards in your deck. It means you're not giving up the card advantage to play it. Because generally speaking, you have to be playing the 2 cards from your hand, which means as fun as it is, by the time you get to the end of your turn, your hand is not looking great. But you can't do that here. So make no mistake about it, this is one of the more awkward cards we've had in Wave 1 or Wave 2. You're tapping a character, and like I've said, let me say it one more time. If you're tapping a character and giving up a turn, I don't think it's worth it. But as long as you're just giving up an attack, you've got extra characters, then you're giving up an action, you're giving up an attack. The thing is here, this can make the difference. This could be the thing that lets you win the game. Because this can do free damage to an enemy, and then you attack. Remember, during your turn, you flip a transformer, play an action card, play an upgrade, then attack. So here, you can play this to do free damage, and then attack. An Inferno Breath can be the thing that means you get a KO when you otherwise wouldn't, which means you take one of your opponent's threats off the board, which means they've got 1 fewer character to attack with, etc, etc. And it really does help you out here in terms of just slowing your opponent down. I can see decks using this, but I think it's very narrow in terms of the usage. I think you've got to have more characters than your opponent, and you've got to be playing a deck which likes cheeky damage. But remember the kind of cards we've got for cheeky damage. We're talking Zap, which only does 1 damage. We're talking about Photon Bomb, which does 2 damage to all of your opponents, but also 2 damage to yours. Or Plasma Burst, which does 2 damage but doesn't have an icon. Or Bolt of Lightning that does 3 damage but doesn't have an icon and costs a star. If you are dedicated to cheeky damage, I like this card. But you've got to tap one of your characters to use it, and that could be a deal breaker. So as far as I'm concerned, I've laid down when this can be useful and why it's not going to work in every deck, but why it could be good in some. So this is a stage in the video where I would very much like you to tell me what decks you think it could be good in and when you might play it. So please go nuts in the comment section, but please do remember the rule. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk Transformers and other games. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.